Thank you so much. It's a real joy. Congratulations to Steve for this incredibly successful event today in St. Louis and putting it together. It's an honor to be able to speak to you on this and share a few thoughts and ideas around digital natives. For some of you aren't familiar with this term, digital natives refers to individuals, peoples, and groups who are very comfortable and have been born in a time period of great digital technology. It doesn't scare them, they feel quite comfortable with it, and they integrate it into all parts of their daily lives. The thoughts I want to share is how this could impact you as members of society, your business, as well as just your daily lives. And I'm really thrilled to have and see the audience today really broken out. It was saying Ted not being hip. In fact, Ted got about as much excitement when I was signing up to, or talking about doing the presentation from my young teenagers than it did from my peers in business. So it's a well-recognized brand even among youngers. The first thing to think in regards to digital natives is these preconceived notions we have, right? As a parent, when you think of digital natives, you think of wasting time, being on these devices and not interacting, right? Just hours and hours of passing time away. But as business leaders, and as well members in society and civic organization, nonprofit organization, it's a very different aspect. Their willingness to adopt these technology leads to some tremendous opportunities for business, as well as threats, as well as for civic organizations. First is, it provides you an unprecedented ability to understand what they care about, what matters to them, and what's important to them as an audience, as a group. Something that marketing and market research firms have struggled for decades and decades to understand. The second part is not just understanding what they care about and what matters, being able to resonate with what matters to them. How do you reach them? How do you reach them at an emotional level? How do you connect with them? This now, through their adoption of these technologies, is something that's far more possible than previous generations for marketing and businesses, and civic leaders as well. But with it, there's another incredible aspect to this, and that is the shift that they've caused. The shift in power from traditional corporations and government to society at large, and how they can leverage these tool sets as organizing instruments. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So first, the idea that it allows unprecedented ability to understand what they care about. The largest collection of consumer data ever assembled. Just a few pieces of information. 1.2 billion users around the world. Right? 293 status updates posted on Facebook, and I like to think of it as 20 billion minutes per day. 20 billion posts would have occurred while we attended this conference. 500 million tweets. Tweets sharing what they care about, what they think, their views and opinions on what's going on, daily events, and just in their lives. Memes, meetups, meeting everywhere on about anything or everything. Currently, every 13 seconds, there's been groups coming together and they're talking about over 90,000 different topics of interest that they care about. And more than 500 tweets per minute contain a YouTube link. And if you think that this digital presence is just a US phenomenon, over 70% of those YouTube links are outside of the United States. But there's something in addition to this in understanding the power of this tool, the power of connection points. You see, in many cases, society at large struggles with a term we call collective action. How do you get millions and millions of people with the same interests, the same concerns, the same emotional, I guess you could say, commitment to certain ventures together and organize their efforts? Very difficult if you're not a structured organization. But what happens is these connections are being formed in social networks. They are not physical, they're virtual. And they can move their voices and move together in regards to groups, to the causes they care about and the initiatives they care about. What that means is, whereas corporations have had structural ability to message and get their viewpoints out, where government has structured people, ideas, and concepts and put them out, there's a fundamental shift occurring. The shift is to the power societally to get their views, their voices, and for them to organize themselves with no formal structure of government or corporation to get things to change in our society. That means from a business perspective, it changes how you conduct your business, has impact on it. From a nonprofit or government, it changes how your ability to influence government and society at large. Now, this scares a lot, especially in businesses in regards to it's either a very significant opportunity, but also a very significant threat. This vast capability and tool set now to organize collectively these different voices for action and cause. What they do is they change perspective on what is the business of business? What is business for? What's its role in society? How should it be conducted? Never were those voices and those groups and communities who had a different view of what business's role was in society, have they been able to organize themselves and express their viewpoints. And it's pretty tough if you're a business leader. Because if you're a business leader, what you're faced with is you don't have as much control over your business direction as you thought you did. There's much more pressure and voice coming to your business as to what it should stand for, what it should do, and how it should operate. Close to heart, one of the world's most fascinating and incredible companies, Monsanto in St. Louis, vast opposition to some of their incredible technologies that have huge and powerful benefits to the environment and to society. And irrespective of which viewpoint you have on biotechnology and genetically modified organisms, these digital landscapes are allowing for voices to be heard, in this case, voices of concern. And not only are they just speaking, they're making changes to what products make it to the marketplace, how those products are formulated, as for things as, I guess you could say, is ingrained in our culture as Cheerios, where no longer will they have GMOs in it because they've listened and understood the voice and concerns that people have had. So I want to walk, how does this look? How does it look if you're a business person, a marketing person, a nonprofit leader, a civic leader? How does it look to take advantage of these opportunities that you can get insights into these audiences and also manage the concerns and threats that exist from this capability? And I'd like to use Hollywood as an example. You know, it might seem, well, why Hollywood? Hollywood is consistently looking to understand what people care about, tell a story, and make sure that story resonates. If it does, they have a blockbuster success. If they don't, they have a significant dud and a significant expenditures in making a movie. And in fact, most of them are very unsuccessful. So it's quite a gamble to make a Hollywood movie. So the first thing you ask, if you're targeting, in this case, millennials, who are the drivers of purchases and attendance at movie theaters, what do they care about? How can I use this digital environment now to understand what they care about? It's an example of millions and millions of conversation that we've organized and visualized in the United States for a 12-month period among individuals from a certain age demographic, in this case 18 to 25. And I get smiles because it's quite interesting when I put these slides up. So the young ones, typically in this demographic, will look at the slide sets from our research and they'll say things like, wow, I thought I was the only one. You know, I'm the only one that's worried about living alone, living with my parents, technological dependence, fear of future, my identity, right? Financial independence, social outcast, government conspiracies, right? Social status. So that's the first thing I get. And by the way, on the bottom right, where we have high volumes of conversation, but not much emotion around it, you have things like Kim Kardashian, where they talk in great amounts. Right? So the top right is the things they're talking about with a great degree of emotion and a great degree of volume. Second response is when parents look at this and say, my goodness, I really didn't realize that this is the type of things they were worried about, that there was so much fear of the future and fear of being alone and fear of what would come of them in the future. So now the first thing is we now have a better understanding of what they're talking about and the emotional aspects. Now the second thing Hollywood cares about is in regards to books, because most time a good movie comes from a good book where people are talking about them in a great amount. So we took a look at books. We looked at what did they talk about when it came to books. And we found the most emotional areas of conversations are around dystopia. Now, I have to tell you, when I first saw these results, I had to check with our cognitive science and say, what is that again? What is dystopia? It's the opposite of utopia. It's where you think that everything is controlled. Your environment is controlled by government and other people, that your decisions and your path are already controlled for you, that you don't have those freedoms. apocalyptic environment, outlaws, subcultures, escapism, and fantasy. These were some of the key areas of discussion around books that got a lot of emotion. What was fascinating was he started matching up all the movies and matching them up to those driving emotions. And lo and behold, all the most successful movies were matching very closely to the emotions that were being expressed in these conversations among this audience segment. The more connection, the more congruency, the more successful the movie. Now, this can be applied to marketing, your message. It can apply to other type of messaging and behaviors you want to align with. Do you connect with what they care about at an emotional level, not at a superficial volume level? So here you have Hunger Games lined up with Twilight. The more reds means there was more alignment with the emotions that this group was providing in their conversation. You got Twilight, Harry Potter. And you can quickly get footprints of these movies and how well they responded and resonated with the audience. And what do I mean by that? To the top is the emotional aspects that were discussed about this movie among those audiences. What you'll notice is Hunger Games provided them a very interesting aspect. Survival tactics, alliances, food security and scarcity. In other words, all those emotions of fear that they were expressing, and lo and behold, these were just conversations, had nothing to do with Hollywood. These were conversations they were openly and freely sharing and conveying in all their digital landscapes. Were telling all their fears and emotions of being alone and being under control. Hunger Games came and gave them a solution. Gave them a solution in regards to alliances, right? And how to cope and how to survive. Thus, it resonated and became one of the biggest blockbuster successes in Hollywood history. We can continue to look at some of the others. Twilight and Breaking Dawn, and what their fingerprint and solutions were. In their case, it was more around romance. In some respects, revenge, right? Protectionism, love, sacrifice, and survival. Top right are the emotional areas of discourse that these teenagers in this group were having, and of course goes to 25. The bottom were less emotional, understanding what really resonated with them. Now, Hollywood is an interesting perspective, but when you're thinking of nonprofit and civic areas of discussion, another perspective comes up. And it's the perspective more of society at large. Right? And this aspect that not only can you use these capabilities in the adoption of, by digital natives of this technology to understand them for your business, for your marketing, for your communications, but then you look at the fact of, well, how can you leverage and understand how to move people to a different type of behavior? The first question when we did some research in the Middle East was, well, why do riots occur in some countries, but not in others? And when do they occur? And what are some footprints to reveal to us these kind of changes when people move and change their behavior? We took a snapshot of a year of conversation in a country in the Middle East. It was quite interesting, we found, is that this one topic came. And you see it labeled, it's called Islamic values. It's not very high in volume. In fact, if it would, it'd be at the top of the screen. But it's very emotionally intense. It wasn't talked about a lot, but when it was talked about, the conversations were very emotional. And what were they about? In the Middle East, there was concern around the protection of their Islamic values. They were fearful of attacks from other regions, other companies, other countries in regards to protecting and degrading their Islamic values. Highly emotional topic point. And these topics change. You know, we see them and they can evolve day by day, hour by hour, different events, different topics occur that could alter what they care about and what they're focusing on in their countries. So it's not something you just look at once. You have to consistently monitor and look at that. Well, why is that important? Well, in this case, it became important. We'll see if the rest comes up. Didn't. What became important was a film was released in one of these countries. It was a film that was denigrating to the Islamic values. It took offense, it attacked it, and in many respects was a great insult to this one country. But what was profound about this was not just that the film was released, but how quickly, in this case, a 5-day evolution occurred. And you can't see it, but we'll speak to it. 5-day evolution occurred where this topic was not only something that was emotionally intense, but became something of high conversation and high volume. It was used to organize tens of millions of voices in 5 days to act and organize to, in some respects, attack both certain others who were attacking Islamic values and organize themselves against these other entities. Now, I always kind of take a step back on that. For many of you who are in civic roles or company roles, the concept of using a platform to organize tens of millions of voices in less than 5 days for a particular area of concern and cause, and to have action occur that changes the state of that country and the state of that government. This is one of the key powers of this digital capability. So it's understanding them, but it's also its ability to move, organize around concerns and issues that they find important in a rapid and quick fashion. So what I want to highlight is these two key things. What's changed? You have the ability to understand these audiences because of their willingness and openness to share what they care, what they are concerned about through all these digital environments. You have the opportunity to act on them, be better company, resonate with them, to build products, to build better messaging, communication strategies, to be able to address their needs and to resonate with what they care and find important. Now the abilities that exist to know what's important for them, not as much guessing having to occur. Second is that they have greater voice, that the voice now can be organized, it can be stated and communicated about what they're concerned about, and they can collectively be mobilized for causes and issues. That is both a great threat to businesses, but a tremendous opportunity as well in other areas. And if you think this just might go away, that it'll slow down, and that at some point these digital tools will become less relevant and less useful as in a tool set, I'll leave you with one thought. Today there's 2.4 billion voices, and at the growth rates that we're seeing, by 2020, 5 billion will be connected in these digital environments, expressing their views, organizing themselves, and sharing with others what they care about, what they're concerned about, and acting on different behavior to take action for those causes. Thank you so much. I hope this has introduced new thoughts for you.